Welcome to Agatha Christie She Watched with Teresa Peschel. Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 version starring Sir Kenneth Branaugh, directed by Sir Kenneth Branaugh, and with a galaxy of stars.
Hi, I'm Teresa Peschel, and I'm going to be talking about, obviously, Murder on the Orient Express, the one with, oh my God, I'm going to say his name wrong every time. I keep wanting to say Kevin Branaugh, but if I say Kenny Branaugh, I know I will get it right. So yes, Sir Kenny, I think he's a sir. Yes. Anyway, he's a triple threat. He's doing all kinds of things on Murder on the Orient Express. And I remember seeing this in the theater, and we just saw it last night for the third time. And each time, I have to admit, I liked it less. I kept seeing more and more of the flaws, particularly in how Sir Kenny portrayed Poirot, because he did things with Poirot that I just can't accept.
Like what?
He showed us Poirot clipping his nose hairs and wearing a girdle, and a leather girdle, no less. And actually, I also have to say, when I saw that leather corset that Kevin Branaugh had, no, sorry, Sir Kenny, I don't say Kevin. When I
come on, we can't clip all these out. You know, you're just going to have to settle on one, and let's move on.
When Sir Kenny is portraying himself as Poirot in a leather corset, I'm looking at that corset and thinking, how did you get into that by yourself? How, pray tell, did you get into that by yourself?
Because this was not a lady's corset with whaleboning and all this. This looked like a a half-inch thick piece of leather.
No, it wasn't a half-inch thick. It was definitely a quarter of an inch thick. It was probably the thickness of a standard cowhide. And it was, if I remember correctly, it was solid across the front and laced up the back. Well, you know what? You can't be lacing something like that up the back and make it nice and snug by yourself. You need a maid or a valet for that. And I'm not seeing any valets on the screen attached to Hercule Poirot. But also, I just can't accept that Poirot would do that. And there are other things that he did with Poirot that, again, I just couldn't accept. And they seem minor. I know that they are minor, but at the same time, it shows that he's not taking the character
as seriously
as he could. I mean, David Suchet takes Hercule Poirot very, very seriously. And one of the things that you run across in the novels over and over and over is that Poirot doesn't like being cold or damp. And if he is going to go out in anything that even approaches inclement, unpleasant weather, he's not just going to be wearing his three-piece suit with the long-sleeved shirt underneath it and the undergarments and the nice silk socks and his spats, which also, by the way, keep his ankles warmer. No, if he is going out into the snow, he is going to be bundled up with mufflers of the finest wool and a heavy-duty, full-length camel hair coat and a hat. And here's Sir Kenny traipsing around in the snow in the Balkans, where it must be absolutely freezing. Everybody out there is freezing cold, and he is running around in a suit. No, he's not going to do that. He's just not going to do that. This is a man who we saw him on the screen. This was in a deleted scene, so it didn't make it into the movie. But we saw it on the deleted scene, where he is complaining to the hotel concierge in Istanbul, which is not what you would call a city in the frozen wasteland, and he's wanting 2 duvets for his bed. Well, that says that he's going to get cold easily, right? That you would have 2 duvets. That's one great big bedspread, one thick, fluffy comforter type bedspread on top of another. And so he obviously gets cold, and then he's traipsing around in the snow without an overcoat on? I don't think so. Plus running along the top of the train. And again, that's not something that Poirot does. Poirot is not action hero. He is not action man. He is brilliant, but he sits in his chair and considers what happened. You know, he goes out and does a little detecting and looks at clues and picks things up. But really what he's interested in is listening to everybody's story and comparing all of the pieces and then figuring out where all the discrepancies are and how they fit together. And he does not go racing across the train cars on a train that is stopped on a trestle. So if he makes one single slip, he is going to plummet to his doom 400 feet below into the crevasse. It just isn't going to happen.
I suspect
anyway,
this is why we're kind of joking about calling him Kenny, because he has Branaugh has very high aspirations. When he
indeed, that's why he's at the top of the train, at the top of the trestle, at the top of the crevasse, 500 feet below.
I didn't mean literally, but I'm talking about when he does Shakespeare for the movies. When he does Hamlet, he's not doing the 90-minute quickie version. He's doing the full 4-hour uncut version, which even Shakespeare probably would have tapped him on the shoulder and said, Kenny, there's a reason why I cut this down to 95 minutes, don't you? And
yeah, so we can do 2 shows on Sunday plus a matinee.
That's right. That's right. But he has these instincts about trying to please the audience, about trying to keep the audience engaged. And let's face it, if you have a train trapped in the Alps on top of a trestle, you want to have, you want to show that danger. You want to show risk and all that.
Well, it couldn't have been very dangerous if he's running along the top of an icy train where at any moment you're going to slip.
But it photographs beautifully.
But it looks great. It looks great. I'll give you that. It looks great. Everything about this movie looks great. It looks great. They really played with the cinematography. You'll notice that almost how many faces you see reflected in mirrors and other windows. Everybody he talks to is 2-faced or even 3-faced in, considering the layers of lies that they have wrapped around them. The score is absolutely perfect. I don't usually notice movie music unless it's really irritating or really good. And this one was really good. Beautifully shot. The train is just wonderful. They even had the train moving. You could see that the train was shifting back and forth. And if you've ever been on a train, they all do that and they can't help themselves. And that's just the way it is. But I've seen movies set on trains where you would never know that they were on a train. They might as well have been sitting on chairs lined up in the living room. Where it is
Alfred Molina version.
Yeah, that train was not a rocking and a rolling as it went down the tracks.
And they made sure that for most of the time the curtains were closed so that you couldn't see the sound stage and the workmen behind them smoking the cigarettes and going, are they done yet? Is it time for our break?
I know there was a lot of green screen and CGI in here, but it all looked fabulous. It didn't give me the sensation of being really faked, because I also know that some of the scenery in the Balkans and up into Switzerland is truly astonishing. Yeah. It just has to be seen to be believed.
Yeah. And this
but
is also
everything about the movie looked fabulous, beautifully done. It's just that so many of the script choices were questionable.
Mm-hmm. Now, the cast as well. Absolutely top notch.
Oh, top notch cats. So there's Johnny Depp as Ratchet, Josh Gad, who I'd never heard of before, but I thought he made an excellent McQueen. And then you get to see people whose names you recognize. Oh my God, there's Derek Jacobi as Masterman. Penelope Cruz, she's the nursery maid. Willem Dafoe, he's the cop turned Pinkerton. The Judi Dench as Princess Dragomirov, Leslie Odom Jr., that was Dr. John Arbuthnot, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yep.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Daisy Ridley. You would never know that she'd been in that crappy Star Wars movie. Olivia Colman, who got hardly any screen time at all. They all looked great. They were a wonderful cast. Absolutely wonderful.
And now let's see. We can start with Johnny Depp. How do you think how did he play Ratchet, and how did it compare to the 2 others that you saw?
I thought he was fine. He was slimy. He was dangerous.
He was very charismatic, though, much more so than in the Suchet Poirot, Toby Jones, because Toby was oily.
Johnny Depp was not oily. He was. It was just different, but I think they both worked. Mm-hmm. They both worked. What I'm most interested in with this particular murder on the Orient Express. Like I said, we've seen this 3 times. So the first time that we saw this was, of course, in the theater, and we went as good citizens do because we were trying to send a message to Hollywood that, hey, we would like more movies like this and less movies in which people are disemboweled on the screen. So this is why I'm actually going to a movie theater and paying for a ticket instead of waiting, like the cheapskate that I am, for the movie to show up at the library for free. So we actually paid to see this, and I was just wowed. I don't get out a lot, so I'm easily wowed. I'm not a harsh critic.
Yeah, there are things about the theater experience that you really should, like the Top Gun movie that's out now, Top Gun Maverick, really should be seen in the theater because of just for the jet scenes and the motion.
I've watched enough jets.
I know, you were in the Navy, and Top Gun was the favorite movie of everybody. You must have seen it 100 times.
I must have seen it 100 times. Anyway, but then we saw it the second time. We saw it when it came out in when the library bought a copy, and it came out on DVD. And at about the same time, we saw the David Suchet version the first time. And it was still good. But since then, that was several years ago. Since then, we obviously started the Agatha Christie project, and we're about 2/3 of the way through, folks. So I'm not necessarily going to be I'm not going to be talking about some of the movies that we've already seen, that we saw 6 months ago, a year ago. But I'm now at the point where I have watched a lot of Poirot movies, a lot of Agatha Christie movies. I've seen Peter Ustinov doing Poirot. I've seen Tony Randall being Poirot, and wasn't that strange? I've seen Ian Holmes as Poirot. I've seen Alfred Molina as Poirot. And now I've seen Kevin Branaugh as Poirot. And David Suchet does a really, really wonderful job. He's very serious about the character and his quirks and his cultural, his mores and his ethics. Peter Ustinov did a really good job as Poirot in terms of how he actually thought. And I definitely got the impression watching the Kenny Branaugh's Poirot, for seeing this for the third time, that as a good atheist, and I have no idea if he is or not, he really doesn't understand religious belief. He doesn't understand it. It's just one of those things that quaint natives do so that rich people can go and enjoy watching them doing their quaint native things and then go off back home and, talk about their travels and how enlightening it was to see other people doing whatever it is they do, like, going to the zoo, seeing people in the zoo. And you see that opening scene where he's got the rabbi, the priest, and the imam lined up in front of the Wailing Wall like victims ready for the firing squad, and he doesn't really take them seriously. And as a good Catholic, Poirot would not be, obviously he would not be cater to the rabbi or cater to the imam because they're different religious systems, but he wouldn't treat them disrespectfully.
Well, this is okay to back up a little bit. This was in I can't remember what it's called. It's the Holy Mount, Temple of the Holy Mount.
They were at the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem.
Yeah, but there was a theft. These were the three representatives. These were the three representatives of each religion that were meeting in the temple.
Yes, like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre.
That's the one.
Yeah. And some relic was stolen at about the same time that these three men were meeting, and obviously it must be one of the three stealing this incredibly valuable holy relic, so it will start a holy war and kill lots of people.
And so he brings them out and he lines them up against the Wailing Wall.
Like a firing squad.
Like a firing squad. And we were thinking a priest, a rabbi, and an imam walks
and
into
then
a
he makes the joke to make sure you hear it, as though you in the audience are not going to be able to see this. And he's not rude, but he's not rude, but it just didn't feel right. It's like he didn't take them seriously. He was on the verge of being disrespectful, and I just can't see Poirot being that disrespectful, certainly not to the priest. And I don't believe that he would be disrespectful to the imam or to the rabbi. But if you're an atheist, you're looking at these three people as being essentially the same. Superstitious deplorables climbing out of the mud, talking to other superstitious peasants. And you don't really have to pay too much attention to them because, hey, they're just superstitious and they're not enlightened like me. And you have this entire setup where you could have Poirot concerned about ethics, because one of the things that is so important in Murder on the Orient Express, and again, I've watched a lot of Poirot TV now, and I've watched a lot of read the books, and Poirot, to him, justice is absolutely critical. Things should be done fairly. They should be done the right way. You should follow procedure. He doesn't approve of vigilante justice in any way, shape, or form. And he very strongly disapproves of murder. And he has a crisis of conscience in the novel when he has to decide, is he going to let the 12 murderers of Ratchet, because they murdered Ratchet, is he going to let them go? And the Suchet version was quite specific that Ratchet, or in his previous life as Cassetti was brought up for trial, and the trial was seriously rigged, and he got off. He walked away a free man. And the family did not get justice. And that's why they took the law into their own hands and, tracked him down and executed him. And here, Cassetti was never even arrested. In this version, he was never even arrested. The arm of the state, the legal arm of the state, never actually tracked him down, brought him to court, and set him up in front of a judge and lawyers and a jury of his peers. That never even happened. He fled to Europe. He did not get justice. The families did not get justice. And so Poirot, we've already seen Poirot has no apparent religious values whatsoever.
It should be pointed out here that in the Suchet version, he prays, he has the rosary, both of those play big roles in his life. This Poirot, Kenneth Branaugh's version, has no religious feeling, exhibits no religious feeling whatsoever. Yeah,
he has none. He is everything is logic. Everything is pure crystalline logic and kind of very abstract, and it doesn't have much to do with humanity at all. So there he is at the end when he's looking, he works out that it was the 12 members of the Armstrong family hunted down Ratchet and executed him, and he has to decide, is he going to let him go, or is he going to insist that they stand trial the way Ratchet didn't? And it's an easy decision in this case. There's no crisis of conscience for Poirot, for Kenny's Poirot. There's no crisis of conscience at all. All he has to do is say, this is like killing a rabid dog. You did well, folks. And I'm going to tell the Yugoslavian police that it was a mysterious man came on board the train, killed Ratchet because it was pretty obvious that he had a slew of enemies from being a crooked antiquities dealer, and we'll all go away and nobody will talk about this again. There was no crisis of conscience. He didn't care. He had no reason to care, especially because he set it up himself that Ratchet never even stood trial. He fled the country before he could be arrested.
Now, there at the end scene where he's explaining all this, there is a little bit of byplay about this, but it's hard. It was so poorly argued to my point of view. When it came to the Suchet Poirot, you could follow the logic, whether he's debating it with the missionary or debating it with the family and friends of the Armstrong family at the end. You can follow along, who has the right to punish?
Yes, who has the right to punish? And the thing that you have to understand when you look at our legal system is really not that old. You don't have to go very far back at all, only a few hundred years, less than 200 years to have widespread police forces that you can actually sort of rely on. And before that, it was always whatever, basically whoever the most important person in the district was made the law. And the Baron made the law, and if you didn't like the Baron's law, you were stuck. And at the local level, you made your own law, and a lot of it was vigilante law because that's the only kind of law you had. And if the state does not come through and fulfill its obligations to the citizens will take the law into their own hands again, and you will get vigilante justice, which is what David Suchet's Poirot didn't want. Whereas I can't say that Sir Kenny's Poirot cared. I really can't see that he cared. And then there were other really, silly choices where John Arbuthnot, you have a gun battle with him. You have that entire opening scene with the rabbi, the priest, and the imam in front of the Wailing Wall, including the acrobatics. You have Poirot turning into action hero as he leaps across the train and chases over people up and down the trestles.
Well, he's chasing after Hector McQueen, who's kind of a big guy. It wasn't really
Hector
much of a chase.
It was really hard to not laugh when you're watching Poirot, who's supposed to be a man in his 60s, an older man in his 60s, and he is chasing a big, fat, drunk guy up and down this trestle bridge, these little passageways in the trestle bridge, and you're thinking, why aren't either of you slipping? Every single part of that bridge must be coated with ice, and yet you are leaping through it like a pair of gymnasts.
Well, I think it's also, and it's not specifically stated, but this Poirot is younger, because as we see in Death on the Nile, in the beginning of it, he's a young man fighting in World War I. So they just kind of...
They did a lot of... Yes, that's true. That's true. So if you
there.
are... Well, let's see. Okay, if you were 30 years old in 1915, and here it is 1935, 20 years later, you are now 55 years old. And let's face it, if you're 55 and being able to leap around on a railroad trestle bridge in the dead of winter that is simply slick with ice and splinters, maybe the splintery wood kept them from slipping, I have no idea, then you are really doing some serious exercises. And maybe the leather corset helped hold him up, right? I don't know.
Didn't help him breathe, I don't think. That thing is
well, yeah, that's the other thing, is you're going to be panting.
Passed out from lack of oxygen. Well, let's go ahead and move on, and we'll talk about some of the other performers here as well, because we have Willem Dafoe, who we just saw in the day before we watched Spider-Man No Way Home, so it was really kind of funny to see him again.
Yeah, Norman Osborn
to playing a German professor, a German engineering professor, or Austrian engineering professor who turns out to have been a Pinkerton agent as well.
Yes, exactly. As always, one of the issues that I always have with, and I like trains. I want you to understand, I like trains. I'm very fond of trains. I think rail travel is a great thing. Wonderful trains, wonderful Orient Express. But I shouldn't be seeing too many scenes of the train chugging through the Balkans when you could be giving me some time with the characters. Such as there is Count Rudolf Andrenier. He's the one who married Sonia's sister. Apparently he's a flamenco dancer, a tango dancer.
I thought it was ballet.
Yeah, no, she was a ballet dancer, but he was apparently a world famous tango dancer, if I remember the script correctly. And yet you don't see any kind of a setup. You get a throwaway line, and he does this incredibly acrobatic bar fight early on, because tango dancers turn into ninjas when they're in a bar brawl.
Oh, this was a great setup, because there was somebody there who says, "Oh, Sergey, you're wonderful. Can I?" Or Rudolph, excuse me, Rudolph, you're wonderful. You're the best of all the reindeer. Can I take your picture? And he ignores the guy until he takes the picture of the back of Rudolph's head,
and then he goes ballistic and starts basically tearing the bar apart. And you think, what is this psycho?
Right. He goes Joe Pesci on him. He takes the back of his head, slams him to the top of the bar, and then does high kicks on somebody else running to his aid.
And you get no explanation for this, that this man is essentially psychotic. And I guess it's okay because, hey, he's a count and he has diplomatic immunity and he's a special snowflake, and so he doesn't have to follow the rules the way the rest of us do.
And then at the end, to cap it all off, and again, this is Sir Kenny wanting to make a joke. There's like a photographer, it looks like a news photographer.
And he takes a picture.
of
and
him.
the Count glares at him, and then the photographer does not do what an actual news photographer would do, which is flip him the bird and run for it with the camera, with the expensive camera. He's not going to let a shot like that go to waste. No, any photographer on any newspaper in the world is immediately going to run, sprint for the nearest hidey hole so that he can get that picture developed and make lots of money.
And he throws the camera on the ground to trash and says, "Oops, it's exposed." And again, it's a joke, and it's funny, but at the same time, you think about it and go,
"No, they wouldn't do that. No photographer would do that. A photographer wouldn't do that. A news photographer, they're vultures." They have to be in order to go up and take pictures of dying people and terrific and horrible car crashes and wartime atrocities. You think they have dainty sensibilities? They don't.
Yeah, this is why they're in the business. If they're not, they wouldn't be in the business.
Exactly.
So then there's other performances. Michelle Pfeiffer as Carolyn Hubbard was just
she was wonderful.
It was a wonderful part. I mean, if Meredith Baxter can score in the role, Michelle Pfeiffer is just
and of course Lauren Bacall in Lauren Bacall was in the Albert Finney one. I can't remember who was Mrs. Hubbard in the David Suchet.
Yeah,
I cannot remember who played Mrs. Hubbard. But Mrs. Hubbard is a key role.
Oh, Barbara Hershey was in.
Barbara Hershey, that's right. It was Barbara Hershey because you have to believe that she's this slightly ridiculous, overbearing American tourist with several husbands and not averse to husband number 4, because after all, she likes a man in her bedroom.
Yep.
And Michelle Pfeiffer was great, and Judi Dench did a great job as Princess Dragomirov. There are a lot of reasons to watch this, but Kenneth Branagh's Poirot is not one of them.
Yeah.
The more you know about Poirot, the more familiar you are with the other interpretations of Poirot, the less you're going to like his Poirot. And I have to say, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Alfred Molina may have done a better job as Poirot, despite looking like he's Columbo's first cousin in the way he dressed. Despite looking like that, he was more serious about it. Mm-hmm. He was more serious because it meant more to him. And we actually got in the 2010 Murder on the Orient Express, we actually got a scene in the beginning of the movie with, God save us, Vera Rusakov, where the Molina Poirot actually discusses ethics and ethics and standards. And you never really get that with Sir Kenny's Poirot. And at the end, like I said, you're there at the crisis of conscience where he has to decide whether he's...
Agatha Christie, She Watched, is Teresa Peschel and Bill Peschel, produced by Bill Peschel. Theme song, Call to Adventure, by Kevin MacLeod. New episodes come out every week wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/mystery and leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on Mystery She Watched, email Peschel at peschelpress.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to Peschel at peschelpress.com. And thank you for listening.
She says for Daisy, and she doesn't mention her daughter. Her daughter didn't count. Died. And her daughter didn't count, and neither did the other grandbaby who didn't even have a chance to draw his first breath. They didn't count. Carolyn Hubbard would not have murdered Rick Cassetti just for Daisy. Her daughter didn't count. Her other grandchild didn't count. And I can't buy that. And that was a scripting issue. That was a scripting issue, and somebody could have said at any point in the movie, during the setting up of this movie, that she should have said Sonia, the baby, Daisy. Yeah.
And it probably would have been much more effective.
I think it would have been much more effective because it would have reminded everybody that Ratchet caused more deaths than just Daisy. Mm-hmm. But those other people, they don't count.
I think in a way this particular version of the movie is a more romantic version of the story. And I use romance in this case not as a love story, but just in how the senses are heightened towards sweeping vistas, lush orchestration, these moments where they're showing you something that is I'm thinking at the very end, Poirot leaves the train. This is a long sequence because Poirot's in his cabin. He walks through the train, walks past all the suspects. Now, remember, in the Suchet version, as soon as he talks to the Yugoslavian authorities, he's walking away. He's leaving them behind because he cannot stand to see these people anymore. There's none of this, the terrible TV movies or terrible TV shows where everybody's laughing together and you have a freeze frame at the end because it's all high points, no matter how many people died. Here, he walks through the train, walks past everybody. It sweeps past Mrs. Hubbard. He walks outside because he's being escorted by the police onto another case. And he stops at the train, outside the train, and he says, wait a minute, go to the car. And then he walks past the car again so that you can see everybody in the windows looking out at him, which I guess if you're stuck in this Baltic station in the back of nowhere, you got to look at something. So why not look at Poirot one more time?
Well, it certainly gives Sir Kenny more screen time, even though that is screen time that could have been spent on plot.
Or they could have just stopped the movie there because
they could have stopped the movie there too.
But
they could have given us more plot, particularly with the Count and Countess, Andreni, because why is this man a psychotic? Why is this man beating up people who are taking his picture in a bar? If you are a public personality, people are going to take your picture, and that is something that just goes with the territory. And we got no explanation of that, and you just don't get any of that. And it wasn't until we went through this the third time that I realized that Pierre Michel, he was the brother of the French housemaid, not the father of the French housemaid. And these sort of things should be made clear, because you cannot assume that the audience that's coming to watch the movie knows anything about Orient Express. And for the people who have read Murder on the Orient Express, we really like it when you get the facts straight. But anyway, so to wrap things up then, now that we've seen it 3 times, what would you just say to somebody about if they should watch it? Oh, absolutely they should watch it. There's a lot to enjoy. There are some really great scenes of the Orient Express chucking through the Balkans, and it gets you a chance to see the romance of rail travel. And they did some things really right, because on the dining car, and this was something that the Suchet version did wrong, because they had Pierre Michel, the conductor, serving. He was waiting on tables in the dining car, and he would not have been. That is what the wait staff is for. I mean, the next thing you would be thinking is that he was also cooking all those meals, because you can't be in 2 places at once. And as one of the very few conductors, he's going to be spending, when the passengers are all away, he's going to be cleaning the cabin that they were in. He's going to be restocking the bathrooms. He's going to be catching
Hopefully
a nap.
Sleeping as well.
Yeah, he's going to be catching a nap because he is on his feet or working continuously. He is not also going to be serving dinner. So you saw a lot more of the staffing of the train. And if you are interested in infrastructure issues, then of course you're going to pay attention to that. It looks great. It sounds great. Lots of wonderful star turns from great actors and actresses. But Kenny Branaugh, I'll get his name right someday. Sir Kenny, I don't think he made a very good Poirot, and the wool roving that he had attached to the front of his face did not help.
And on that note, we'll go ahead and say goodbye. And Teresa, thank you so much for giving us your opinions on Orient Express 2017.
It was fun. And after this comes Murder in Mesopotamia.
That's the next episode. And we'll see you at the movies next time.
Follow us on Instagram and on Facebook and at our website.
Bye-bye. Agatha Christie, She Watched, is Teresa Peschel and Bill Peschel. Produced by Bill Peschel. Theme song, Call to Adventure by Kevin MacLeod. New episodes come out every week wherever you stream your content. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can help support us by going to anchor.fm/mystery and leaving a 5-star rating and review, and by helping to spread the word. To advertise on Mystery She Watched, email Peschel at peschelpress.com. All questions and comments can be emailed to Peschel at peschelpress.com. And thank you for listening.